Hey guys, tonight we drift across sands kissed by the sun and wind-whispered cliffs that rise like forgotten teeth from the earth. You feel the heat first, not punishing, but patient like an old friend pressing its palm against your back. Around you, the desert doesn't sprawl so much as pulse-breathing dust and time. Birds you don't recognize trace low arcs above your head. The horizon wobbles with illusion, and somewhere in the silence something bright glints. And no, it's not a mirage. It's someone smiling. A smile lit up with streaks of deep burnt orange. Yeah, you're in ancient Nubia where even the teeth wore color. Now brace yourself. This isn't your typical bedtime chat about quiet abbeys or dusty scrolls. No, tonight you'll stand among people who painted their teeth on purpose. You'll watch orange dye seep into smiles like fire in twilight. You'll stir herbs that stink gloriously, hear bones rattle in ceremonies under a lunar sky, and get embarrassingly judged by a goat true story. And at some point, probably when the healer offers to dye your molars, you'll realize something important. Ancient people were weird, brilliant, and really into dental aesthetics. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to, like the please, subscribe to my channel, and share your location and local time, only if you genuinely enjoy my content. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk, and the sand isn't soft, it squeaks under your feet. A reminder that nothing in the desert is ever truly still. The sun squints through your eyelashes, and everything smells of warm rock-baked grass, and just a hint of something herbal. The Nile's off to your right, hidden behind a knuckled ridge of hills, but you can feel its pull. You're walking toward color history, and maybe if the rumors are true, a pot of orange pigment older than the pyramids. Nubia isn't just ancient, it's layered, older than its statues, deeper than the royal tombs, and full of things that don't get talked about in neat textbook timelines. And right now it's preparing to show you its most intimate secret, not a king's crown, not a war journal, but a tooth. Painted, decorated, celebrated. You spot the first villagers around mid-morning, their linen robes fluttering in the breeze like sails looking for a sea. One waves lazily, as if you've met before in some other life. You wave back, trying not to trip over your own oar. Up close, the smiles strike you first, not because they're wide though they are, or frequent definitely, but because of their shocking color. Not red, not brown, but a warm, vivid orange, the kind you'd expect in a summer sunset or the middle of a mango. And it's not lipstick. Nope. That orange, it's on their teeth. Somewhere inside your brain, your 21st century dental hygiene sensibilities file a complaint. But honestly, your curiosity files an override. You squint harder. The color glows, not painted like a novelty, but soaked in like it belongs there, like it was grown. You follow a group of women toward the village. There's chatter, laughter, and one tall man who seems to be explaining something about goats and dye ratios using only hand gestures and a palm leaf fan. A toddler toddles past you carrying a ceramic pot twice his size. And then, just as you're getting comfortable, someone offers you a wooden bowl filled with a thick, pungent paste the color of rust. Chushi says, in a voice that assumes you know better than to ask questions. You don't chew, not yet, but you watch. The villagers gather under a woven canopy near a fire pit, and that same bowl makes its rounds. Everyone takes a nibble. Some swish. Others smear it across their front teeth with practiced fingers. One older man winks at you and bares his mouth like a jack-o'-lantern carved from tangerine. A woman beside you explains in broken common tongue that the dye is made from crushed pomegranate rind, iron-rich mud, and fermented bark. Also secrets, she adds with a wink. Mainstream historians know this as tooth staining, practiced in parts of ancient Sudan and Nubia as far back as 2000 BCE. The pigments served cosmetic, social, and believe it or not, medical purposes. The reddish-orange tones came from tannins and plant acids that also happened to kill bacteria. The effect, a blazing smile, and surprisingly healthy gums. Take that Listerine. But fringe theorists suggest something stranger. Some believe the color wasn't just cosmetic, it was spiritual, a marker of maturity, a signal to spirits that this mouth belonged to someone initiated. Others go full esoteric and say the dye had hallucinogenic properties used during trance rites. No proof, of course, just stories. And yes, historians still argue whether it started as beauty health or divine communication. You start to see patterns. Married women stain their teeth darker. Unmarried girls wear lighter hues. Warriors lean toward crimson. Shamans, they go full neon. No one has plain white teeth, and no one seems to want them. The idea of showing your natural smile here would be like going to prom in sweatpants. Unthinkable. You wander past homes made of sun-dried brick, their walls painted with ochre handprints and wavy Nile motifs. Children chase each other with reed dolls. A potter hums while shaping a jar. And every so often someone flashes that orange grin, and you feel like you've fallen into a sunset made of people. Later at twilight, the air smells like wood smoke and marula. You sit with the healer, a woman named Amara, whose laugh sounds like someone shaking dried beans in a gourd. She tells you that when she was 13, she stained her teeth for the first time, cried the whole night, thought she'd swallowed a demon, but by morning, she'd gotten used to the taste. By afternoon, she couldn't stop smiling at her own reflection in a copper dish. Pretty teeth catch more than fish, she says, nudging you. They catch stories. And that you realize is what this is about. Not just teeth, not just dye. It's about being seen, marked, glowing in a world of clay and shadow. And maybe, just maybe, you take a dab of the orange stuff on your fingertip and hold it up to your own mouth, just to see, just to imagine. You blink awake the next morning to the smell of something sour, earthy, and oddly familiar, like someone's been cooking marmalade over compost. You sit up from your mat of woven reeds and realize the entire village seems to be buzzing around a central hut smoke, curling lazily from its thatched roof, and the unmistakable clink of pestles pounding mortar. Welcome to Nubian Cosmetics School. Lesson 1. How to make teeth turn orange without terrifying your mouth. You're led by Amara, your now semi-official tooth dye mentor toward the dyeing hut. Her feet barely disturb the dust as she walks, and her fingers leave smears of reddish sap on everything she touches stones, her own cheek, the tips of her elbows. She hums as she pushes aside the curtain of palm fronds. Inside, you're greeted by heat spice and an unholy amount of clay pots. First resin, she says, pointing to a small bowl filled with what looks like golden tree sap. You lean closer. It smells sharp, almost citrusy, with a hint of wood smoke. From the gum tree, sap must be taken before sunrise, has more truth before the sun touches it. You nod sagely. This seems like the kind of wisdom you pretend to understand on day one and Google desperately later. Still, the logic kind of checks out. Sun-warmed sap, probably lazy. Cold sap, honest. She points to another jar, this one filled with what appears to be crushed red roots, swimming in brine. Fermented 5 nights, she says. Longer, and it grows teeth of its own. You pause. She winks. Apparently jokes are universal. You take a closer look. The roots are reddish-purple veined like fingers. When stirred, the liquid foams slightly, and it smells like vinegar trying to seduce a beetroot. This part stains, she explains, but alone it fades. You need heat, patience, and a lie. Sorry, a what? She hands you another jar. It contains powdered bark, tan, flaky, whisper-thin like moth wings. You touch it, and it disintegrates. From the lie tree, she says, completely deadpan. Okay, either this tree is extremely rare, or you're the butt of an elaborate Nubian prank. But before you can say anything, she grins that famous orange grin. We say that because it hides its fruit. You must trick it. You must lie to the tree, and then it gives you what you want. You glance around. Everyone's nodding solemnly. Historians still argue whether this lie tree was a metaphor or an actual plant, known for its deceptive growth habits. Some suspect it was a type of acacia or tamarind, both of which had bark used in medicinal and cosmetic applications. Others think it was just, well, a really good joke. The mixture is heated in a clay bowl suspended over hot stones, not flames. Too much fire, and the paste loses its magic, Amara says. You watch as the liquid darkens, thickens bubbles like caramel and begins to smell amazing, like burnt orange peel and cedar with a whisper of wild mint. Then the cooling. Everyone waits in silence as the paste sits. Just sits. You'd think it was a sacred ritual, and in some ways it is. This isn't paint, it's a rite. And no one wants to rush a rite. Someone offers you a sliver of dried papaya while you wait. You accept chewing slowly, trying to match the villagers' patience. One elderly man leans toward you and mutters something about the paste working best under moonlight. Another claims it only works if you don't smile during application. Yet another swears that humming a love song makes the stain last longer. There's no official instruction manual, just generations of half-truths, superstitions and trial by molars. And it all works. Somehow, that's the part that gets you. When the paste is finally ready, Amara dabs it onto a carved bone stick and motions for you to open your mouth. The paste is warm, gritty, and surprisingly sweet on your tongue. Don't swallow, she warns, unless you want to dream of talking lizards. You try not to swallow. Outside the hut, a breeze kicks up. The shadows stretch long across the ground, and children play tag with branches. The dye tingles, and you start to understand why everyone here walks around grinning like sunset itself lives in their mouths. This isn't just vanity. This is endurance, patience, craft. And yes, there's a mainstream fact. Buried in all this, ancient Nubians developed and passed down an organic antimicrobial tooth stain, centuries before modern dental hygiene. The tannins from bark and fermented root reduced harmful bacteria and may have strengthened enamel. Orange wasn't just a vibe, it was a preventative measure, the world's most stylish mouthwash. There's a knock on the post, outside the hut, and in steps an old man wrapped in linen like a walking scroll. He leans heavily on a cane carved with spirals. His teeth are practically glowing. When he speaks, it's in a low gravel tone that sounds like time itself complaining about its knees. First stain was by accident, he says. Woman drank from fire jar, thought it was honey. Next morning, her husband ran screaming, but the goats stopped biting her clothes. He bursts out laughing. Everyone joins in. You're not sure which part of the story is true, but the laughter is definitely real. He points at you, narrowing his eyes. Yours will be good. You chew with honesty. You nod, even though you're not entirely sure what that means. That night you sit by the fire as the stars start to bloom above like sleepy eyes slowly blinking open. Your mouth still tingles faintly, and you run your tongue over your teeth every few seconds, half expecting a burst of flavor or a vision. But all you feel is warmth. Amara leans over and hands you a polished shard of copper to see your reflection. It's faint warped, but you can make out the glow, the soft orange shimmer. You smile, and it smiles back. The morning sun seeps through the thatched roof and slips across your face like warm syrup. You blink, stretch, and grin without thinking, only to catch sight of Amara's knowing smirk as she walks by, with a clay bowl of something steaming and suspiciously green. You smiled in your sleep, she says, raising one brow, dreaming of orange royalty. You touch your jaw self-consciously, as if the dye might have deepened overnight. Maybe it did. Maybe you're glowing. Amara isn't the only one who notices villagers nod as they pass, offering little compliments that feel just vague enough to be magical. Strong fire in the mouth, one says. Good omen for planting, mutters another. You're learning quickly that in this Nubian world, teeth are more than teeth. They're statements, shields, paintings of the soul, apparently. Amara sits beside you and starts polishing her nails with what looks suspiciously like river sand. In the palace, she says casually, the princess paints her teeth every week. Her chamber smells of lemon sap and stories. You perk up. The palace, she continues without looking at you. Her colour is brighter than sunset. Men fall down when she speaks. You try not to imagine someone fainting mid-conversation because of a dazzling orange molar. But here's the thing, she's not being metaphorical. Among the nobility, this dental art has status, power. It's part of the soft armour of beauty, the visible badge of refinement and sacred hygiene. The elite don't just paint their teeth for fashion. They do it to show they have time, resources. Toothpaste made of resin and root isn't easy to come by unless you've got a retinue of attendants with expert grinding skills and an unlimited budget for citrus. Historians still argue whether the orange tooth trend in ancient Nubia began with nobles or healers. Amara says, dipping her fingers into a bowl of something suspiciously sparkly. Some say it started with shamans. Others think queens copied village midwives who were too poor to own mirrors, but knew exactly what colour power looked like. A soft laugh escapes you. You can't help it. The idea that ancient beauty trends might have travelled up the social ladder like some sort of reverse influencer is oddly satisfying. She shrugs. All I know is in the marketplace, a good smile makes you richer than a goat with twin kids. That afternoon, you wander into the village square and immediately notice the visual language of teeth. A merchant selling beads flashes a grin brighter than the sun and attracts a small crowd. A mother with twins, her teeth only faintly tinted, gets passed over in favour of the woman next to her, whose smile is the hue of crushed mangoes and absolute confidence. There's a rhythm to this. You begin to observe more closely. Older women, clearly respected, have more muted tones, almost a smoky orange, like ember ash. Younger girls have vibrant tangerine teeth that nearly glow under the sun. Some men have orange front teeth and undecorated molars, which you learn is a symbol of dual-strength beauty in the open restraint in the bite. In the shaded edge of the square, a man chants softly to a small group, flicking orange light off his teeth every time he opens his mouth. You drift closer. He's a healer, or maybe something more. A spiritual interpreter wrapped in layers of faded linen and feathers. His face is painted in stripes and his eyes flick over the crowd like he's scanning for lies. He tells stories in riddles and people answer in rhymes. One woman asks how to find her lost goat. He answers, "Ask the river if it remembers your shadow." She nods solemnly. Another asks why her stomach aches. He offers her a carved root and says, "Because the fire in you wants to walk." You don't get it, but everyone else seems to. When he smiles, his teeth are not just orange, they're almost gold. Amber, perhaps. The light catches them in a way that feels supernatural. Your skin prickles. Later, Amara tells you his name is Seshem, and he only speaks in riddles because the straight path scares spirits. His dyed teeth are a badge of his shamanic lineage, passed down through rituals no outsider has ever been allowed to witness, except one man long ago who went blind afterward. You decide not to ask for details. In the world of ancient Nubia, teeth communicate status and function. A noblewoman's teeth speak of leisure and luxury. A healer's teeth speak of vision and sacred trials. A merchant's smile is her best advertisement, and a warrior's orange-streaked canine might be the last thing you see before waking up in the afterlife. The colour matters. The pattern matters. One woman you meet has dyed only her lower teeth, claiming it makes her words taste richer. Another has alternating orange and white, which she says gives balance to her dreams. There are whole theories built on tooth colour harmony. Even children get in on it. You spot a group of boys experimenting with crushed berries, not permanent, but bright enough for mischief. They run around flashing crimson smiles, pretending to be fire spirits. It's adorable and mildly terrifying. The weirdest moment of the day comes when a toothless elder, his smile like a row of soft caves, tells you he misses his orange teeth like lost lovers. "They warmed my words," he says. "Now my voice is cold." You try to think of a reply, but none comes. Instead, you touch your own mouth again, grateful for the glow, and silently vow never to take toothpaste for granted again. Not now that you know it used to come with rituals, riddles, and the slight possibility of being visited by ancestors if you left the lid off the jar. You fall asleep that night with the image of the shaman's glowing teeth etched behind your eyelids. His riddles still echo in your mind, and you wonder if maybe your dreams will answer them for you. The moon watches silently from above, and somewhere nearby, someone hums an old song about truth hiding in orange things, medicinal myrrh, and rituals. You join a twilight ceremony where myrrh song and dyed smiles converge in healing myth and mosquito bites. The air is thick with the weight of dusk, that slow velvet curtain that hushes the world in ochre tones and perfumed stillness. You sit cross-legged on a woven mat, that smells faintly of goat and lemon. The village fire crackles nearby, sending little sparks upward like fireflies trying to file a grievance with the stars. Someone is chanting. No, several someones. Their voices layer over each other like soft linen, warm and worn with belief. Amara hands you a shallow bowl filled with water that smells ancient. You glance down and see flecks of golden resin swirling in it. Myrrh, she whispers, for your breath and your bones. You're not sure which of yours needs more help right now, but you sip anyway. It tastes like tree bark that once dated a citrus fruit and still hasn't gotten over the breakup. But the warmth it leaves in your chest is oddly comforting, slightly spicy, slightly unhinged. This is no casual gathering. You're in the presence of a twilight healing ritual, equal parts pharmacy, therapy session, and community poetry slam. The kind that happens when the sun dips low and people are too tired to lie, but not quite ready for dreams. In the flickering half-light, everyone's teeth glow faintly orange, even yours, especially yours. There's something oddly unifying about it, like everyone is part of the same lantern breathing and burning together. A woman steps forward, cradling a small child whose cheeks are slick with fever. An elder whose teeth are so richly orange they seem carved from sunset itself takes the child in his arms and sings. Yes, sings. It's not a lullaby. Not exactly. It's a melodic listing of herb symptoms and river metaphors all folded into verses that would confuse a cat. The mother listens, nodding. Sometimes she repeats lines, her voice tight and hopeful. You shift your weight and wince. A mosquito the size of a philosophy student has just declared war on your ankle. Don't slap it, Amara warns without turning her head. They remember. You freeze. They what? She tilts her head. Historians still argue whether the Nubians believed mosquitoes carried ancestral messages or just karma. Either way, slapping them is considered rude. You let the insect finish its snack, wondering if it'll tell your grandmother you're doing okay. The ritual continues. Myrrh smoke curls through the crowd, occasionally catching someone's eye and making them blink like they've just remembered an old debt. One man starts laughing quietly and then sobs. No one minds. No one even flinches. You realize this isn't just about the sick child. This is about everybody. Healing isn't a solo sport here. When it's your turn, and of course it is your turn, because Amara gently pushes you forward without warning, you panic slightly. I'm not sick, you whisper. Everyone is, she replies gently. Just tell them what part of you feels heavy. You consider saying knees or emotional baggage, but instead you blurt out, my smile doesn't feel real. It's quiet, and then the crowd hums in sympathy. The elder grins. His teeth shine like citrus peels in the firelight. He asks, when did your mouth last open for joy? You blink. You blink again. Someone nearby starts drumming softly with a stick and a rock. You're not crying. The smoke is strong. That's all. The elder reaches into a pouch and brings out a small brush, a flattened reed dipped in a thick paste that smells of earth ash and fermented fruit. He gently touches your teeth with it, murmuring something between a blessing and a dad joke. As the paste sets in your mouth, tingles, not unpleasantly, more like it's remembering how to speak a new language, a language made of orange truth. He leans closer. Now go speak something beautiful before the paste hardens. You nod even though you're not sure what that means. Maybe it's symbolic. Maybe it's spiritual. Maybe it's just very hard to pronounce the word banana right now. Amara hands you another bowl of water, this one infused with lemongrass. Rinse, don't swallow. It doubles as mosquito cologne. You rinse. You sparkle. You almost step on a beetle with more leg swagger than your ex. Back by the fire, people are sharing riddles now. One man asks, what always returns but never repeats? A child answers your grandmother's stories. Applause. Not clapping, just warm laughter and a hand placed gently on the shoulder. This community doesn't just talk. It listens in circles. It dances in metaphors. And it paints its teeth like banners for the soul. Somewhere during the night, you forget to be self-conscious. You join a call and response about rivers and regret. You accept a carved necklace shaped like a tooth. You learn that orange in this culture isn't just color, it's a verb. Something you do. Something you live. By the time the fire burns low and people start drifting away in twos and threes, your smile feels lighter, worn in, almost weightless. And your teeth, they glow like they've heard a secret and decided to keep it. The dyes that stain time, you explore how natural pigments created not just smiles, but status warnings and secret languages across ancient Nubia. You wake to the sound of distant drumming, a gentle, thoughtful rhythm, like someone asking the earth a question with their palms. The morning is heavy with dew and a subtle scent of something citrusy. You stretch, yawn, and promptly realize your teeth are still glowing faintly orange. Apparently, this isn't the kind of dye that disappears with sleep. It lingers, like gossip, or the song stuck in your head since last night. You sit up and find Amara tending to a basket of crushed fruit skins, and Bark laying them out in the sun like slices of strange prehistoric pizza. Still tingles, she asks, smiling. Like my smile has a pulse, you admit. Good. That means it's working. You don't ask what it's doing. At this point, you've accepted that ancient Nubia didn't do anything without at least 3 layers of meaning, a joke, and a lesson. This too is part of their artistry, weaving chemistry into culture so tightly that even your dental hygiene might be a coded message. You follow her through the village to a shaded area near the riverbank. There, rows of clay pots steam lightly in the sun. Each contains a different paste, and each has a label scratched into a shard of pottery, some in pictures, some in syllables that look like birds doing yoga. These are the dyes of the old stories, Amara explains. We didn't just paint teeth, we painted warnings, belonging, mourning. She points to a thick wine-coloured paste. This one, that's for women who've just lost a child, or a dream. It tells the community not to ask questions, just bring food. You nod, trying to imagine a world where grief was not hidden, but announced with dignity. Then she gestures to a bright yellow mixture. This, for new beginnings, worn by brides, and by those who've left something behind. Sometimes a marriage, sometimes a mistake. A faint smile tugs at her lips. You dip your fingers into a jar of pale green and sniff. It smells like mint moss and stubborn optimism. Social dye, she says. It signals someone is open to talking, but only if you bring tea. You laugh. Historians still argue whether these pigments were strictly symbolic, or if they doubled as insect repellents, medicines, or passive-aggressive indicators of personal drama. Amara shrugs. Maybe all of it. Or maybe we just liked pretty teeth. You walk through the dye garden, where clay bowls perch like birds on stilts, soaking in sunlight. Some are bubbly with fermentation, others are still as scrying mirrors. You're handed a book, not a real book, more a bundle of flattened bark sheets tied with string. Inside are tooth diagrams, charts, poetry. The ancient pigment masters were chemists and gossips, Amara says. Every dye had at least 5 recipes depending on the season, the mood, and the intended audience. You pause on a page that shows a curious symbol, a spiral above a row of square teeth. What's this? She leans over. That's the sigil for, I'm silently judging you but in a sacred way, usually worn by elders during debates. You snort, which earns you a playful elbow. Further along the trail, you encounter 2 teens painting each other's teeth, with what looks suspiciously like mud mixed with crushed beetle shells. They're in the middle of an argument, Amara explains. And this helps. Oh no. This is the argument. You blink. The teens are locked in what appears to be a competitive performance art piece involving exaggerated facial expressions and aggressive humming. Apparently, orange wasn't the only colour. Bright reds warned of danger. Deep indigos hinted at spiritual transitions. Even black had a place reserved for rituals involving the dead or those who were about to become ancestors. In this world, your teeth were not just part of your body, they were messengers, silent billboards. And the language it changed, depending on who you smiled at. The same orange hue could mean flirtation in one dialect, defiance in another. A certain curve of the lip, a fleck of gold near the molar, those could say, I forgive you, or I remember what you did last summer, and the gods do too. You realize you've been part of a living library this whole time, one that doesn't shelve books but wears them, on teeth, on smiles, on the strange spaces between silence and song. Amara hands you a smooth stone. Its surface is etched with teeth, all painted in different hues. It's beautiful, but it's also a dictionary. Cheat sheet, she says. In case you want to talk to someone but forget what you're wearing. You pocket it, you'll need it. Later, as the sun climbs higher and a sleepy heat settles over the village, you catch a glimpse of your reflection in a pot of dye. Your teeth still gleam orange, but now they're dusted with hints of copper and lavender. Unintentional, maybe, but when an elder passes and nods at you, you nod back instinctively, adjusting your smile to mean thank you for seeing me. He grins. Maybe that meant you're welcome, or your dye's smudging. Either way, you feel understood. You walk back to camp with Amara beside you. The sky is starting to bleach into the pale blue of midday. Somewhere someone's pounding roots into paste. A child laughs, a goat sneezes philosophically, and you're smiling, bright, stained, seen. Teeth as status symbols, you uncover how color-coded dental practices help define class kinship and beauty standards in ancient Nubian society. You lean back on the reed mat, the breeze brushing past like a sleepy cat, and watch as Amara pulls a string of beads through her dyed teeth, polishing each one with rhythmic precision. Status isn't about noise, she murmurs. It's about who listens when you don't speak, which is ironic because at the moment, a nearby noblewoman is definitely speaking, or more like laughing loudly, her teeth practically glowing with metallic flecks that shimmer when she tilts her head. They're not orange, not entirely. There's a hint of silver, a kiss of gold, maybe even crushed pearl or mica. You squint. Are her teeth sparkling? Amara grins, showing off her own slightly more subtle orange hue. That's Lady Tamari. She's part of the high-class circle. They get access to rare minerals. Crushed oyster shells, powdered hematite even. Volcanic glass. You didn't hear that from me. The woman across the square laughs again, but this time it sounds like punctuation, a way to assert space without moving. She flicks her hair, flashes her glimmering molars, and a handful of onlookers subtly reposition themselves around her. It's a parade without the drums. Back in your time, people wore Gucci belts or watch faces the size of small pizzas. Here, it's all in the canines. Nubian society, you're learning, wasn't a rigid hierarchy carved in stone, but more like a rhythm fluid, nuanced and communicated with the teeth. Color combinations weren't just cosmetic, they were credentials, status cards with molar gloss. Light saffron meant you were of age to marry. Deep plum suggested widowhood, but also wisdom. A glint of obsidian that probably said something like, "Don't mess with me. I once outran a lion and have the scars to prove it." Historians still argue whether these color codes were legally enforced or socially understood, but either way, you start to grasp how mouth decor became as vital as clothing or even language. You're offered a mirror. Well, technically, a polished bronze tray that's trying its best to be a mirror, bless its heart. You peer in. Your orange teeth still hold strong, but now the edge of one front tooth sparkles faintly. Amara notices. "Oh, they upgraded you," she says. "Probably because you passed the dye trial without complaining. That shimmer, it's powdered carnelian. I feel like a fancy beetle," you murmur. Perfect. That's exactly what they were going for. Around the village, the visual code unfolds in layers. Elder men, with weathered teeth, stained the dark green of crushed papyrus, walk together in tight-knit clusters. Their smiles crackle like dry parchment, but command instant respect. Young women cluster with pastel pink tones dusted across their incisors, each shade slightly different, each mouth telling its own unfolding story. You watch one woman whisper something, her dyed teeth catching the light, and suddenly 3 other women laugh, as though she's just dropped a royal-level joke. Amara chuckles beside you. "Teeth are gossip currency," she explains. "Say less, smile more." You pass a pottery vendor displaying open-mouth figurines, each carved with teeth painted carefully in reds, blues, greens. The vendor catches your eye and lifts one doll, tapping its pearlescent grin. "High priestess," he explains. "See the white bands near the canines? Means she's been touched by moonlight." You blink. Touched by moonlight sounds suspiciously poetic, or uncomfortably specific. "It's symbolic," he adds. I think. The meaning of colour varies not just by class but by kin. Cousins wear matching tooth tints during certain rituals like coordinated sweaters, but way cooler. Entire households might wear ceremonial orange on festival days. New mothers sometimes shift their colour to a soothing blue, as if telling the world I'm tired, but I'm here and please bring bread. Then there are the teeth left undone. No dye at all. Those mouths draw attention too, but for the opposite reason, absence. Those are usually ascetics, Amara says, or rebels, or maybe just out of dye. You pause, squinting toward a teenager lounging near the river with completely unmarked teeth. He flashes you a grin that says, I know you're looking. And just like that, you realize even silence has a tone. Later, you wander into a covered courtyard where artisans mix pigments and consult thick scrolls of recipes. One stops you with a finger to their lips, then points to a wall etched with tiny, smiling faces. It's a catalogue of tooth designs. Some are unmistakably extravagant. Others seem tender. You touch one with a zigzag of burnt orange across the front two teeth. That one, the artisan whispers, worn by girls who've just seen a comet. It means they've made a wish and intend to chase it. You smile genuinely, wildly, and think, where do I get that one? The artisan grins back. You're halfway there. So here you are, in a world where your mouth is more than a means of eating, talking, or accidentally spitting when you laugh too hard. It's a signature, a statement, a small shimmering billboard of status, story, and style. And as the sun lowers again, and the warm gold light makes everyone's teeth glow just a little brighter, you realize that in ancient Nubia, smiling wasn't just a social cue, it was a cultural art form. You grin. Your molars say, thank you for noticing. Rituals of colour and ceremony, you witness a sacred ceremony where teeth dye is applied as part of a rite of passage steeped in symbolism and ancestral chants. The day starts with a hush, so profound it's almost louder than sound. No market chatter, no pounding pestles, no shouty fishermen arguing about the price of catfish. Just the whisper of woven linen. As people gather in lines, their bodies draped in ceremonial whites that shimmer faintly in the early sun, like threads spun from morning mist. You're ushered into the center of the gathering, where the air smells like jasmine, roasted millet, and anticipation. The stone plaza beneath your feet is warm, and the dust softens the sound of movement, as if the earth itself is holding its breath. You look to Amara, who stands beside you in a robe that's fancier than usual, trimmed with beads and dyed symbols. She nods toward a low circular platform encircled by bowls of dye bundles of herbs and rows of flat stones smoothed by generations of kneeling knees. It's happening, she whispers. What's happening, you ask? She doesn't answer. With words, just presses a small sprig of desert lavender into your palm and gestures toward the approaching procession. Young initiates, maybe 10 or 12 years old, walk barefoot across the plaza, their eyes wide but calm. They carry no weapons, no trinkets, just their breath and the sacred silence. Each child is flanked by 2 elder women, their guardians for this rite of passage. It's called the Zara Smile, and if that sounds lovely, well, it is. Each initiate will receive their first ceremonial tooth dye today, not just any hue, but a shade chosen according to dreams' omens and which birds pooped near their sleeping mats the previous moon cycle. Yeah, divination here isn't exactly subtle. You're invited to observe, but only from the outer ring. Amara gives you a nudge. Stay quiet. The ancestors are eavesdropping. The ritual begins with chanting soft and slow, like a lullaby made of sand. The words don't translate well into your language, but you understand the rhythm invocation, offering, intention, transformation. There's always transformation. Each child kneels. A wide-leafed brush, dipped in bright orange pigment, is pressed gently to their teeth. Some wince at the taste, a bit metallic, a bit spicy, with a back note of should this be in my mouth? Others smile through the sting. You watch one girl, arms thin as reeds, and eyes like polished onyx, receive a particularly vivid streak of dye along her incisors. The elder performing her ritual stops, leans in and whispers something. The girl's mouth trembles, not with fear, with pride. Later, Amara explains that this particular shade is called Tahiya's Flame, reserved for girls who've shown fierce courage during monsoon floods. She saved her cousin from a collapsing wall last season, she adds. You nod, feeling like your own molars are suddenly quite pedestrian. Each dye isn't just colour, it's story. And each child becomes a walking library of intentions, actions, and ancestral echoes. The most fascinating moment comes when an elder boy steps forward, maybe 14, tall and sun-darkened. As the dye touches his teeth, he begins to hum, low guttural tones that somehow vibrate in your chest. A nearby observer nudges you. He's channeling, they say. Historians still argue whether these musical outbursts were spontaneous spiritual reactions or cleverly timed performances meant to impress the elders, but either way, it's mesmerizing. The boy finishes his hum, sits back and grins. His teeth are streaked with burnt sienna and thin gold lines. He looks like he swallowed a setting sun. Next, the children are handed a mirror, well, technically a shallow bowl of water, with powdered stone on the surface to reflect their new appearance. They gaze in, some gasp, others cry, not in fear or sorrow, but the kind of tears that come when you realize your reflection finally understands you back. It's one of the most beautiful moments you've ever seen, and no one claps. That's not the way here. They nod, they whisper prayers. One old woman simply blows a puff of scented smoke and walks away. It's enough. You're given a small leaf-wrap packet before you leave. Inside 3 pebbles of dried pigment. For dreams, Amara says. Place one under your tongue before bed. If the dream is clear, the dye will follow. You do it that night. Just 1 pebble. It tastes like sunburnt herbs and old secrets. You dream of sand dunes that move like ocean tides, of a woman with teeth glowing violet, of a lion who speaks only in riddles and asks for your name 3 times. When you finally answer, your voice is coloured orange. You wake up smiling. The next morning you notice the edge of your left canine now has a faint shimmer. You swear it wasn't there yesterday. No one says anything, but Amara winks as she passes you a bowl of dates. Later that day, as the final songs of the ritual echo into fading sun, the elders gather once more, not for the children now, but for themselves. A separate ceremony, a retouching of teeth. They sit in pairs, painting one another's smiles with shaky hands and soft laughter, a reminder that even wisdom must be maintained. Even memory needs colour. So now you know ceremony isn't just for the young. It's for anyone brave enough to declare, I am still becoming. You touch your dyed tooth and think, maybe I am too. Healing magic and dental sorcery. You explore the medicinal uses of tooth dye, including its alleged power to repel evil spirits and soothe toothaches with a side of magical gossip. You start your morning by nearly stepping on a cat with mismatched eyes and a fish in its mouth. That feels like a sign, although what kind isn't clear. Amara laughs and shoos it away with a flick of her hand and a muttered phrase that translates loosely to, go whisper to the wind, nosy little beast. There's something in the air today. A scent sharp like lemon peel and old firewood, and a vibration in the sand that you feel in your ankles before you hear it. It's root day, Amara says. You'll like this. You follow her toward the healer's hut, a domed structure smelling of dried petals and scorched copper. Inside it's dim and warm, and buzzing with quiet urgency. A girl sits in the corner with a swollen cheek, her eyes glassy. An elder kneels before her, mixing something in a wide ceramic bowl, bright orange with flecks of green, and a smell that makes your tongue feel itchy just by inhaling. Tooth dye, Amara confirms, but not for beauty, for healing. You watch as the elder coats a small wooden spatula with the mixture and gently applies it to the girl's gums. The girl winces, but within seconds her jaw slackens and her shoulders drop. Relief. Just like that. Magic or medicine, if you're not the poetic type. Turns out the orange dye isn't just for rituals or aesthetics. It's a cocktail of powdered roots, crushed tree bark, citrus oil. And here's the twist. Microscopic particles from a local river clay, known to be rich in antibacterial minerals. Modern scientists might call it a primitive antiseptic, but let's be honest, it's probably more effective than that neon mouthwash in your bathroom cabinet. Historians still argue, whether the dye's pain-relieving properties were intentionally engineered or happy accidents, Amara says, offering you a tiny sample on a leaf. You dab a speck onto your tongue. It tastes like spicy dirt and tangerine lightning. You sneeze. But beyond the science lies something stranger. You should hear what it does to curses, whispers a boy nearby, not much older than 10, but already full of opinions. He leans in like he's telling you who stole the last sweet cake. Put some under your pillow and ghosts leave you alone, even the ones that click. You raise a brow, click. He nods gravely, teeth first, then bones. Charming. Amara rolls her eyes, but doesn't deny it. There's an old tale, she admits, about a spirit that licks your molars while you sleep. It only stops if your breath smells of dye. Later you pass by a shrine carved into a sandstone cliffside, dedicated not to a god, but to a woman named Alua, the first known healer to mix orange dye as a medicine. Her statue shows her holding a pestle in one hand and baring her teeth with the other, which is probably the ancient version of a flex. Legend says Alua discovered the tooth dye when trying to make incense and accidentally spilled citrus oil into a fire pit. The resulting fumes knocked out her assistant's toothache and gave her orange teeth for a week. Serendipity, plus a little creative rewriting. You pause in front of her shrine, watching others leave small offerings, bundles of herbs, orange beads, one particularly bold carrot. You add a pebble from your sandal. It's not much, but it's what you've got. That evening, Amara invites you to a storytelling circle. The air is cool and heavy with the scent of burning resin. Everyone sits on low cushions, teeth gleaming in the firelight. Tonight's story is about a man who laughed too loudly at the gods and woke up with all his teeth dyed black. He begged for forgiveness, but the spirits told him only orange would lift the curse. He travelled for years before finding a cave where a single flower bloomed once every solar eclipse. He mixed its pollen with river mud, dyed his teeth, and finally, his smile returned. You chuckle. It's ridiculous. But you also notice that no one in the circle is smiling too wide just in case. Before bed, you brush your teeth with a twig and a dab of the healer's dye. The bitterness makes your gums tingle. Amara hands you a string of orange beads to wear while you sleep. It helps with dreams, she says, and ghosts, especially the ones that whisper. You nod, then freeze. Whisper what? She grins. Your secrets if you're not careful. You fall asleep anyway, and dream of a hallway lined with mirrors, each one showing a different version of you. Younger, older, braver, smaller. In each reflection, your teeth glow softly. They seem to hum. You wake without knowing what it means. But you feel cleaner, lighter. Your breath smells like sunrise and oranges. Not bad, really. As you walk through the village that morning, a group of children waves. One calls out, "The ghost didn't find you." You wave back and mutter, "Not this time." But you check your pillow, just in case. Burial, smiles, and afterlife. Prep, you witness how tooth dye plays a role in funerary rites, preparing the dead for judgment legacy and possibly impressing spirits with style. You wake to the sound of soft chanting drifting on the morning breeze. A rhythmic, almost melodic thrum that vibrates in your chest before your ears catch up. Amara is already awake, sitting cross-legged by the doorway, her face calm, but her posture alert. "There's been a passing," she says simply, "and you feel it. How the air seems heavier, how the birds are quieter. Even the sun seems to hesitate as it peeks over the hills, warming the village in slow motion. You follow her past the usual market stalls and chatter past the bread ovens and spice peddlers, all quieter today, more solemn. At the edge of the village lies the preparation tent. Its linen sides billow like sails, and inside it smells of sandalwood, lemongrass, and something deeper, earthy rich, like time itself exhaled. The body lies on a woven mat wrapped in white linen, a small clay bowl beside it. In the bowl, the same bright orange tooth dye you've come to recognize anywhere. "They say the gods notice your mouth first," murmurs an older man, perhaps a village priest or ritual keeper, as he dips a fine brush into the mixture and begins carefully painting the lips and teeth of the deceased. It's the last thing they see before your soul speaks. You raise a brow. Wouldn't they care more about your heart? He chuckles. Maybe. But a clean, glowing smile doesn't hurt, especially when you're asking to pass through their gates. It's ceremonial, yes, but it's also tender. This isn't vanity, it's intention. The final detail in a life that, judging by the care taken, was deeply cherished. You feel like an intruder, but no one stops you. In fact, someone offers you a small bead to place with the body. For smooth travels, they whisper. As the sun rises fully, the community gathers for the procession. Drums echo faintly in the distance, not fast or loud, but steady like a heartbeat slowed to meditation. People carry flowers, jars of oils, even dyed feathers. But every third or fourth mourner wears orange across their lips or carries it on their fingers. It's not just for looks, Amara explains as you walk. It's to show the spirits that we remember and that we're sending them forward with power. Some even whisper messages into orange-painted gourds, which are buried with the body. Wishes, confessions, apologies, hopes. You imagine some very personal messages going underground today, tucked beside a soul ready to journey on. Historians still argue whether this custom began as a medicinal rite, a magical protection, or simply a fashion trend that got wildly out of hand. Amara jokes, adjusting the sash around her waist. I like to think it's all three. The burial itself is serene. No dramatic wailing, no long sermons. Just silence, broken only by the gentle clink of beads and the occasional cough from someone who clearly regrets that second bowl of spicy stew last night. The body is laid into the earth, not in a rigid coffin, but cradled in a shallow grave lined with painted stones. The teeth, still vibrant orange, peek out from behind a peaceful expression. You wonder if the person had time to prepare to understand this part of the journey. Amara sees your expression and murmurs. They had weeks. They knew. They even laughed about which shade of orange to pick. Not the one that makes me look too smug, they said. You smile despite yourself. Do you think they're watching? Amara shrugs. Maybe. But if they are, they're probably judging our fashion choices. As the crowd begins to thin, you linger near a wooden marker now standing at the head of the grave. It's carved with a symbol you don't recognize, 3 arcs over a circle. It means voice among stars, says the priest from earlier. It's how we hope they're remembered. He shows you a scroll filled with other symbols, some for warriors, others for artisans, even one shaped like a bird. For a woman who was said to talk to owls. Every person gets a mark, every smile a send-off. Later that evening, you join a circle of elders under a tree that's blooming out of season, its orange flowers glowing like embers. They share stories of the deceased, laughter echoing between bites of flatbread and sips of tea so strong it could probably remove paint. One woman tells a tale of how the deceased once frightened a visiting tax collector by pretending their orange-stained teeth meant they had a magical curse that made enemies grow blisters on their feet. It worked. The collector never came back. The laughter that follows is deep and real. Even in death, this person brings joy. You head back to your mat with your thoughts swirling like smoke. The stars above twinkle with exaggerated innocence, like they know what secrets were whispered into those gourds. You think about your own end far off, hopefully, and wonder if you'd want orange teeth too. Maybe. Depends on the shade. That night you dreams again, but not of mirrors this time. You walk along a path lit by fireflies and glowing fungi, and ahead stands the figure of the deceased, younger, beaming teeth, radiant and warm. They nod once, then vanish like breath on glass. You wake just before dawn, heart's steady breath, calm. Somewhere nearby, the birds begin again. The orange legacy lives on. You leave the ancient world with fresh eyes, tracing echoes of orange teeth through time, folklore, and modern misconceptions. You stretch under a sky blooming with the first pinks of morning bones, creaking like old gates mined unusually quiet. There's a different energy now, as though something has settled inside you during these long, strange, vibrant days. Amara meets your eyes as she hands you a small bowl of pomegranate seeds and tamarind syrup. Today's a good day to leave, she says, and you know she's right. The village has begun to stir again, its rhythm returning. Yet the colour orange seems more present than ever. You spot it not just in the dyes and fruit, but in the ceremonial bands on people's arms, in the new swirls painted along water jars, and in the little ribbons tied around a few children's ankles as they laugh and chase each other through the morning mist. Is it always like this, you ask, Amara gesturing to the brightness. She gives a sly grin. Only when someone leaves us changed. It takes hours to pack emotionally, not physically, and you linger at the edge of the village, unsure whether to turn back for one more look. You don't. You already know the path by heart. The smells, the jokes, even the precise sound of a pestle grinding crushed flowers into a dreamy paste. Your feet return you to a world more familiar, but the way you see it has shifted. Because now, every time you brush your teeth, you think of pigment made from crushed acacia bark and fermented fruit. Every time you glimpse someone applying lipstick in a mirror, you wonder whether some ancient Nubian spirit chuckles softly from the afterlife. Welcome to the club, they'd say. Nice hue. Modern cosmetic history doesn't really mention Nubia. Not often. Most credit lipstick's origins to Mesopotamia or Egypt or ancient Greece. But sometimes, just sometimes, a fringe journal or forgotten blog will mention the orange-toothed people of the Nile, possibly used for dental protection, they write, or spiritual defense, or, looking amazing at dinner. Historians still argue whether the Nubian practice influenced later beauty rituals or if it disappeared altogether, swallowed by shifting sands and cultural amnesia. But Amara's voice echoes in your ear. All color travels, even if it hides. You find yourself examining pop culture dental trends, even toothpaste flavors. Cinnamon bursts, orange-tinged mouthwash. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe legacy works like scent, subtle, lingering, not always noticed unless you breathe real slow. You recall a story from a journal you skimmed back in a forgotten library. In the 1940s, a dig site near modern Sudan turned up a mummified jawbone with brilliant pigment still clinging to the molars. The archaeologists dismissed it at first, just mineral staining, they said. Until one assistant, who also happened to be an amateur painter, recognized the orange. A natural ochre blended with beeswax. He tried to replicate it. It lasted through 4 rainstorms and a hot cup of tea. You laugh picturing someone today with that formula going viral on social media. Ancient Nubian smile challenge stays on all day, even through a breakup. There's something comforting in the idea that even vanity, when seasoned with history and sincerity, can become a form of worship, or defiance, or play. You wonder how many children in Nubia copied their mothers' smiles in polished bronze mirrors. How many young lovers showed off glowing teeth at moonlit dances. How many elders painted their last breath in orange, not for gods, but for grandchildren to say, "Remember me bright." And maybe, just maybe, that's the real reason. You remember the fire, the stories, the woman who frightened a tax collector with her pumpkin grin. You recall the burial, the chants, the gourd, with whispered secrets. All these moments etched in orange. None of them loud, but all of them unmistakably alive. By the time you return to your own reflection, your toothbrush resting where you left it, the mirror doesn't quite show the same person. You lean closer, think of oils and resin and bark. You smile. No orange yet, but you're thinking about it. Maybe tomorrow. Word count 1090. Wind down. Final 300 words. And now, let everything soften. Let your thoughts dissolve like powdered bark into sweet oil, like pigment blooming across water. You've journeyed far tonight across time, along the Nile, through market scents and whispers of the dead. You've watched rituals unfold like quiet theatre, learned that even a smile can carry centuries. You've seen how colour can be language and how silence can be legacy. Let your breath slow now, tracing the memory of incense and laughter. Feel the cool earth where sandals tread the hum of insects at dusk, the glow of orange beneath starlight. Maybe someone out there is smiling now, past or present, because of a story you carried forward. That's the beauty of history when told in whispers. It lingers. It wraps you in threads of scent and shadow. It paints your dreams in colours you've never known, but somehow recognise. So settle deeper. The journey's done. There's no need to remember the names or the facts or the debates, though. Yes, historians still argue about everything. Just remember the feeling, the one where you belong to something older, quieter, beautifully absurd. Let your eyelids grow heavier. Let the night hold you. And if you see a stranger smiling orange in your dream, don't be afraid. They're just saying goodnight.